Hey everyone, I'm Samuli, and I want to share a little about why I chose to become a game developer in a longer format. And I hope this might inspire you to become a game developer too. A lot of people wonder why someone would dive into this crazy world of coding, design, and storytelling, especially going solo. For me, it's pretty simple. I wanted to help other people the way games helped me growing up. When I was younger, I didn't always have the easiest time. Like a lot of kids, I went through some tough moments, especially dealing with bullying. But there was always one thing that gave me an escape: video games. What was that escape for me? Well, it was RuneScape. It wasn't just a game to me, it was a world where I could forget about the outside and just focus on having fun. I really enjoyed the community there that I didn't have in the real world. However, the first game that I played and that hooked me into the world of video games right there and then was Command & Conquer Red Alert on PlayStation 1 at 6 years old, playing with my friend, and I still remember that very fondly. This sparked my interest in strategy games, and even today, I especially love the Total War series. Once I realized how much video games meant to me, I started to think, what if I could make something like this for other people too? So, I went to college. I actually started with a focus on 3D modeling there. I even started learning texture in Substance Painter. This was outside of the school. Programming was a secondary focus for me, and a fun fact, I actually originally went in because I was most interested in programming. So it's okay to change your focus. I like to think this also made me a better developer, as I have experience in many different aspects of game development. As a solo dev, having experience across various aspects of game development isn't just useful, it's essential. That's when I first dipped in my toes into game development. It wasn't easy. Learning tools and engines, Unity, C#, modeling, texturing, etc. felt like learning a new language. But slowly, step by step, I started making progress. At first, it was just small things, like making character move or jump, or modeling and texturing my first asset. But then I realized how much potential there was to do more. Tips for anybody interested in starting. Just pick an engine, it doesn't matter which one. I'm sure you've heard it before, but that's just the truth. Don't overthink it. Second, I do believe that tutorial projects are a great way to start, but I believe there's one specific trap in tutorials, and that is how you do X feature in the engine of your choice. You're just hopping from the tutorial to tutorial, adding this and that based on what you need at the time. But ask yourself, are you really learning anything here? Or are you just essentially copying the work? Are you actually implementing anything by yourself? At least trying to. Instead, build upon the tutorial project. Just add some small things. You started an FPS tutorial, maybe you want to make it less realistic or more arcadey, so perhaps try to implement a double jump. Remember, game development is a marathon, not a sprint. It's okay to struggle, it's okay to fail, and it's definitely okay to ask for help. Every step, no matter how small, brings you closer to your goal. So, be patient. If you're just starting, I want to tell you that this journey will take years before you reach a point where you can confidently make games. But trust me, it's worth it. For me, that switch happened about a year ago, and it gave me the confidence to commit to finish this project back in February. Before that, I was pretty aimless. The earlier you can make the commitment, the better. Another thing to consider is how prepared you are to work on the same project for years. This is important because if you struggle with long-term projects and have large scope, you are more likely to hit a wall. If sticking with a project for years sounds difficult, consider scoping down to something more manageable, like aiming for 6-month cycles. It can make all the difference. Looking back, I can see how my early struggles, tutorials, and the failures were all part of the process. And they made me the developer I'm today. And they will help you grow too. So, like I told you before, programming was the initial interest for me, but it didn't come as naturally to me compared to few others in the school, and that was a sort of catalyst to switch to 3D modeling. To be fair, it did end up being easier for me, but it still somewhat wasn't as fun as programming. After school, so in 2017, I did some modeling, even a few renders, but eventually I started dabbling on programming again. It took years after that when I finally felt comfortable with programming. There were definitely times when I felt like giving up. Game development is no joke. It takes serious dedication, and I faced a lot of challenges. from coding nightmares to just trying to get things to feel right in the game. But every time I hit a wall, I reminded myself of that kid who found joy and escape in games. And that pushed me to keep going. It also made me realize that each challenge just makes you stronger and more skilled as a developer. One of the biggest challenges I have faced was making the fully body-aware character controller. I spent months banging my head against the wall, ready to give up more times than I can count. I had to take breaks and work on something else at times, but I'm happy I didn't give up on it. It's in pretty good condition and it has a lot of features, and best of all, I made it myself. This experience was a game changer for me, not just in terms of skills, but also realizing I could overcome bigger challenges. It made me a confident programmer. I, like many others, made the classic mistake of way too big scope. We had this CRPG in college as a team of 4. Well, we ended up realizing that this is way too much for a team of 4, and an inexperienced one at that, let alone doing this as a solo developer. It taught me to keep my scope more realistic and to better prioritize what's achievable as a solo developer. Depending on your situation, it could help to remind yourself that this is a hobby and I'm not financially dependent on the project, which is the case for me. So in a way, I take this as a practice game of sorts. I just tried my best to make as good of a game as possible and learn along the way a lot. That mindset allows me to take risks, experiment and improve without the stress of commercial success. You could also take it further by not having a deadline. However, personally I have set a deadline for my game, though I am absolutely not going to release it if the game is not at a good state at the time. A lot of my inspiration comes from developers who know how to mix fun with deeper meaning. Take Rockstar Games and what they did with GTA 5. To be fair, it's not my favorite game, but it's a smart critique of society if you pay attention to the details. That kind of subtle social commentary is something I admire and hope to incorporate into my own work. Games can be fun, but they can also make you think. Sure, not all games need to do that, but it's important for me. I want my games to be the kind of experience where, if you dig a little deeper, you find something thought-provoking. Another inspiration for me is Blizzard and a connected world regardless of the game. I want to do the same thing, where I keep the same universe and keep building on it for each game I release. As for other game YouTubers, I would probably pick out Lost Relic Games, Tokyo Split for his vibe, and Thread Interactive for the push for better optimized games. There are many others I have watched too, but this one just came to my mind first. My current project that I'm going to talk about a bit later on is inspired by games like Hot Lava, Mirror's Edge and Industria. Hot Lava and Mirror's Edge bring in the parkour gameplay in first person. Industria in that it combines these two completely unrelated things and fuses them together. It has two environments, Cold War Germany with this sci-fi steampunk twist and the other steampunk Scandinavia. In the same way, my game aims to combine ancient Rome and the Industrial Revolution. Leave a comment on what games have inspired you and why. I would love to hear that. Right now I'm working on Roman Legacy Speed Trials. It's a parkour FPS platformer set in an alternate history Rome, where tensions between different political ideologies are starting to bubble over. The teens at the center of the story don't realize this, and they're just having fun doing parkour. At its core, it's about fun and fluid movement, but beneath that, I want to include social themes in a way that feels natural, like how Grand Theft Auto 5 does in its commentary. I do recognize that this is a very niche game, and likely it's not going to be a great success, but when it's your first game, it's kind of expected, even if it would be less of a niche. You know, I don't really care about that. My only wish is that somebody will enjoy playing it. And as a developer, I want to be very versatile and be a great overall in all aspects, well, most aspects of game development. I'm still planning to go solo moving forward, but I'm open to be part of a team too. It's not a priority for me, however. There would be benefits for that. I would be focusing on the things that I prefer and get mental support. Then again, it has the negative of losing some of your vision, and well, I quite like the challenge of being solo. My ultimate goal is to make games that leave a lasting impact. Games that are only not fun, but make people reflect on the world around them and in a way that is not pushy or preachy. If you enjoyed this and want to hear more about my journey or my game project, stay tuned. I've got a devlog coming up soon where I'll dive deeper into new improvements and additions. Also, finally, I'll give a more detailed introduction to the story I've been cooking up. So if you're into that, hit subscribe and I'll catch you in the next one.